Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and yes, you read the title, and as I teased in the last review video, this one film by Disney under Touchstone Pictures starring the late legendary Robin Williams. And yeah, because I'm glad to have finally watched this film. And I almost forgot to mention, because I also mentioned this, and well, by teasing it, it was nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. Yeah, and I believe this was Disney's second film of theirs to be nominated for Best Picture. The first being Mary Poppins, then this, and then 2 years later, after this film with Robin Williams, Beauty and the Beast. That would get nominated for Best Picture. And then, of course, years later, Pixar, being a part of Disney, would have two of their films be nominated for Best Picture, Up and Toy Story 3. So yeah, technically that counts. So, but that is something. Just like in Disney's history to have films of theirs, even like say another studio that's a part of their family, to have films be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. That's something. So that's right, guys. I am finally reviewing from 1989, Dead Poets Society. Yes, Dead Poets Society. I'm glad that I've finally had gotten around to watching this movie, and, well, thus I'm now reviewing it, and you're watching it. Not what I was expecting. Not what I was expecting at all. Because, I think, yeah, I've stated this before. You think, what you would think at first of some certain movies, and when you do finally see them, yeah, just kind of not what you were expecting. And not in a bad way, of course. Just, you get my point. Yeah, so this movie, because, starring Robin Williams, this English teacher, and the way he teaches his students, unlike any other teacher in this school and such that these students are in. Yeah, and just, it's like, we should always have a teacher like Robin Williams' character. Yeah, don't you think? Man, because I really also didn't expect the power of this film, the emotional stuff, and, well, of course there are some funny moments. They're there, I mean, especially since you have Robin Williams. Of course, you gotta, when it comes to Robin Williams, you of course have to throw in something funny and such for him to do, but it does depend. I mean, take, for example, Good Will Hunting, because that being a serious movie and Robin Williams playing a serious role, but it didn't hurt for Good Will Hunting to have a couple of humorous moments, and especially from Robin Williams. So, and because no doubt about it, because when he was being funny in Dead Poets Society, because there's no doubt about it that the students laughing at what Robin was saying, well, clearly the actors were actually laughing. And it's just like in Good Will Hunting, because Matt Damon was actually, like, laughing and wheezing at a funny story that Robin Williams was telling as his character. Yeah, so there's your example. Yeah, so it's amazing just, like, what this movie left off, the impact and such, and how it did rightfully so, I think. It did rightfully so get nominated for Best Picture, even though it didn't win, still, being nominated is something, and that goes for this movie. And, well, as I said, that's rare for Disney to have a movie of theirs be nominated for Best Picture. Yeah, because, since 1964, when Mary Poppins was nominated for Best Picture, and it wouldn't be until, 2 decades later, in 1989, because when another movie of Disney's would get nominated for Best Picture. Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, but as always, read the description / the story. A new English teacher, John Keating, I think it's Keating, yeah, is introduced to an all-boys preparatory school that is known for its ancient traditions, and high standards. He uses unorthodox methods to reach out to his students who face enormous pressures from their parents and the school. With Keating's help, students Neil Perry, Todd Anderson, and others learn to break out of their shells, pursue their dreams, and seize the day. Alright, so getting into the movie itself, because, this school that is the main focus and center of this film, being called Welton Academy. Because again, Welton Academy, also known as Helton by students, because to them it's hell, basically. And this school basically, it preparates the students and such for what they're going to do and stuff like that, but the pressure put onto the students, and especially our main characters who are the students. And, and as I read in the description / the story, it's obvious. Welton Academy has never changed. They've always stuck with the ancient tradition of, how to teach and stuff like that. But when, Mr. Keating steps in, John Keating being played by, as I said, the late legendary Robin Williams, well, what he does, unlike any teacher in that academy. And with the cast of characters, because, as I mentioned, Robin Williams as the teacher, John. There's Neil Perry, there's Todd Anderson, and, Neil Perry being played by Robert Sean Leonard, and Todd Anderson being played by a young Ethan Hawke. I actually didn't even recognize, young Ethan Hawke in this. I mean, we all know who Ethan Hawke is, and we especially know his daughter, his daughter making it big time, also, there's Knox Overstreet, being played by Josh Charles, Charlie Dalton, being played by Gail Hansen, Richard Cameron, being played by Dylan Cussman, I think I might be saying the last name right. And again, you know me sometimes, how I, have trouble pronouncing words and names, and I'm not the only one, of course. There's also Stephen Meeks, being played by Elian Ruggiero or something, I don't know. And there's also Jared Pitts being played by James Watterson. Basically, those are the main characters / the students of this movie. We also have one of the big top men in the Welton Academy, Mr. Nolan, being played by the late legendary Norman Lloyd. And Norman Lloyd, he's done so many other films and also some TV work. I do remember him best on the side of acting on TV. He was in an episode of, season 6 of Star Trek The Next Generation as Professor Galen, who Jean-Luc Picard admired and looked up to and such. That was in the episode The Chase. That was a really good episode. And for all you Trekkies, and if you know, it was pretty good. Norman Lloyd, he plays Mr. Nolan, and it's obvious later on that Mr. Nolan is kind of a dick, basically. And we also have, Perry's father, who from time to time in this movie we see, and how Mr. Perry is just disappointed in his son and what he wants to see his son do. But with what Neil wants to do, and very later on in the film, well, his father's against it. And Mr. Perry being played by Kirkwood Smith. Good old Kirkwood Smith, who plays the dad in that 70s show and that 90s show. The sequel to that 70s show. And of course, he's done a lot of other great acting stuff, like something else Star Trek, to mention another piece of Star Trek material. He was the president of the United States, I want to say, in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Him. And if you remember and know that he's in it, so... and I know, because I've seen him in other stuff. I'm trying to remember if it even pops in my head at some point. I'll mention it, and when talking more about Kirkwood Smith as Mr. Perry. Well, anyways. And also, we do get a little bit of an appearance of Neil's mother, Miss Perry, being played by Clara Belver. And, Neil's mom really doesn't have a huge part in this film, but at the same time, like, at a certain point in the film, we can see that she feels she's very upset and feels very sorry for what her son is going through. And could she not do anything about it and stand up for her son and confront, her husband? I'm just saying, Anyways, so continuing on in the film, because, it's obvious because the students having a difficult time adjusting to Welton Academy and how they're being taught and such, and almost like, they're being forced upon and the pressure and all that. But again, when, John Keating steps in, well, because everything changes for our main student characters. Because basically, John Keating doing the opposite of what Welton Academy does, what he brings to the students, teaching them, just be free-minded and such, and also a lot of poetry that he has them do, and, coming up with their own poems and stuff like that, and, even, like, say, when they're doing sports, and having them read their poems while, kicking the ball, and also, because at Welton Academy, they also have a class of, paddling a boat and such, that whole thing, and there's a lot of great moments, especially, for the students and John Keating, and also, an important part of this movie, and hence the title, because they discover something from John, which being the Dead Poets Society, and what John explains, how John explains to them about the Dead Poets Society, and also keeping that top secret from the members of the Welton Academy, because that's top secret, they can't know about that. And, technically, because John basically persuade them to create a group, which being the Dead Poets Society. So, our main student characters, well, they form a group and such, which being the Dead Poets Society, and their secret hideout is at this tree, and going to this tree late at night, and one of the main students basically, I guess, becomes like top leader, I want to say, and that being Charlie Delton, because he calls himself, at a certain point, nicknamed Nuwanda. I think, I got that right. Even say a symbol or something of I guess the dead of their group and such, on his face and even on his chest at one point. And for the other characters, because Knox, because Knox, at one point, he finds a girl very attractive, because Knox was sent to a house and to meet with who was it? Let me see, because he came face to face with the daughter, and because I think it was was it Chet? I think no. Let me see. Okay, so if I remember correctly, because it is Chet, because Chet Denbury doesn't really have a huge part in this, but until I mention him some more, because Knox meeting with Mr. Denbury, Joe Denbury, being played by Kevin Cooney, and also we see Mrs. Denbury being played by Jane Moore. And apparently, there was Jenny Denbury. I assume, she's supposed to be the sister of Chet. And Jenny Denbury was played by Laura Flynn Boyle. I know Laura Flynn Boyle, that name does ring a bell. But apparently, because I had no idea, because she doesn't appear in this movie, because her scenes were cut. And as it says in the IMDb page of Dead Poets Society, I wonder why, because, couldn't we have at least gotten a small appearance of Jenny? I'm just saying. Jeez. And Laura Flynn Boyle, I know I've seen her from plenty of other movies, because again, the name does ring a bell. Yeah, so Knox was to meet with Mr. Denbury, and yeah, because she was Laura Flynn Boyle, because like she was in like say Wayne's World and Men in Black 2. So, but of course I know she's done more than that. Anyways. So then, like, because when he arrives at the house, well, because he first came face to face with this very beautiful blonde girl named Chris Knoll. Well, hey, girls can be named Chris, apparently. I mean, I don't think I actually really knew that. So Chris Knoll being played by Alexandra Powers, and already, because Knox finds her attractive and, starts to have a crush on her, and then, of course, starts to fall in love with her. But, of course, later on he realizes that, well, she's already in a relationship with a football player, and as I mentioned, Chet Denbury, being played by Colin Irving, if I'm saying that right. I feel as though I should be pronouncing it right, but I don't know why. I'm not. But I think you get my point. So, yeah. And also for Neil. No, because I didn't get to Neil and what's going on with the character of Neil. Because at a certain point, he is wanting to do acting. That's what he wants to do. But unfortunately, yeah, his father disapproves, and oh my gosh, because what happens later on in the film, in the third act, wow, because until I get to that, jeez. But of course Neil, he's not going to give up and such. Even when he gets really good advice from Mr. Keating, John Keating, of course, just to, convince and talk to, his dad and such. And, more scenes / sequences with the students and their teacher, John, really good. And again, because, to write their own poems and to be free-minded and so on. And also to rip one page of their books, just to rip it and just, shred it to pieces and so on. And that's what he has them do. Even at, like a couple of times, having them stand up on their desks, tables, and stuff like that. And, John coaching them to, like to one of the students, closing his eyes, and what does he see? And just because one of the students didn't write a poem, but, John is coaching and encouraging him to think of a poem that he, for him to come up with his own poem. And of course, he gets it. He finally gets there, and he does make a poem of his own, even without, writing it on paper. It's amazing. Even the students applauding for it, of course. And it was nice, because the students were laughing at first, but, John was telling him, don't pay attention to them, so just focus on what you're doing, forget them. And of course, yeah, as I said, the students, they then like it, and yeah, they do applaud, so that's nice to see. Yeah, and because with them in this Dead Poet Society group, and it's obvious that at a certain point the Welton Academy would find out about this, and yeah, because I'm pretty sure that Charlie, aka Nuwanda, I think because he technically kind of gave it away. Maybe not intentionally, but yeah, what was Charlie thinking? Things slowly but surely don't start to not look good for our main characters, and the risk of what could happen to their teacher, because, the teacher, being pointed at because, technically, because, John, brought this to the students of the Dead Poet Society, but of course, not in a bad way, of course, because another, member of, the Welton Academy that John, did get along with, Dr. Hager, so I think, because he was the doctor of the Welton Academy, and Dr. Hager being played by George Martin, and also to mention some of the other characters, there's, McAllister, I think I got that right, being played by Leon Pownall, if I'm saying that right. There's also, a chemistry teacher being played by Joe Affery, or I don't know. Yeah. And also there's Gloria, being played by Melora Walters, and Tina, being played by Welker White. Yeah, because those two girls, at one point, when they're all meeting at the tree, because of their group and such, well, because a couple of, one of the students brought along two chicks, so yeah. Yeah, and because, yeah, I did name all the students, yeah. Yeah, because, you know, because Stephen Meeks, as I mentioned, and Richard Cameron, so, yeah. And also for Knox, well, because he's even encouraged, at one point he's encouraged to give a phone call to Chris, and he was about to, but then, you know, when he heard her voice, he hung up, and, well, then he was still coached and encouraged to call her again, and when he did it again, this time, well, because he let her know that it was him and such, and Chris was glad to hear him, because, well, Chris invited him to come to this party at, I think at her parents' house, I want to say. I'm pretty sure. And, well, Knox, you know, he goes to the party. And that's when, of course, yeah, because he then is introduced to, I think, yeah, to Chris's boyfriend and such. And just some of the, you know, teenagers there, and just, you know, some of them making out and such. And, you know, poor Knox, because he doesn't have a girl alongside with him, and just feeling left out. But then, you know, at one point he's at a couch, and, well, right next to him, from my point of view and such on camera, because right here, because Chris is, you know, is, I think, passed out or something. I don't know, is asleep a little, and, well, Knox, just like stroking her hair, and you know, then he kisses her forehead, and then at one point, because, well, Knox was risking it, because one of Chet's boys, you know, his boys notice what Knox was doing, and wouldn't you know it, Chet beats the living shit out of him. Pardon my French, but it's true. And, well, I mean, there's blood and such, but yeah, I mean, of course, Chris was quick enough to stop it, and, well, because, you know, Chet threatening Knox the next time he sees him, and, you know, towards his girl, you know, he's dead, and so on. You know, I'm glad that we don't get that much of Chet, because nothing happens later on, and, you know, the risks that Knox is taking. But of course, Knox doesn't stop there. He's not giving up on his feelings towards Chris, because, well, he wrote a poem for her, and, you know, he went to the school that she's at, and, you know, giving her flowers and wanting to read her the poem that he wrote, and, well, because she's telling him to just to get out of here because of Chet and such, but Knox is not having it. He doesn't care if he's gonna get murdered by Chet, because going into the classroom and reading the poem, and, you know, the funny thing is, because right as he starts to read the poem, we then cut back to Welton Academy, and Knox is back. Well, apparently, because he did read the whole thing. He informed his fellow classmates that, well, he succeeded on reading the poem and such. You know, even one of Chet's boys did notice it, and, well, even because later on the film, Chris came to Knox, you know, telling Knox that, you know, they just can't see each other, and just to stay away, and, you know, even, like, Chris did her very best to not have Chet come to Welton Academy to, you know what, to poor Knox. Okay, and coming back to Neil, because, well, his dream of doing acting and such, even, like, sending out a letter, you know, under his father's name and such, and it succeeds, and, well, because him getting into this theater, but sure enough, his father comes back to Welton Academy, and, well, he's very disappointed in Neil, and telling him that he will not pursue acting and so on, and stick to what he's doing and what he wants to see his son doing. And, you know, even, like, before he leaves Welton, you know, he says to his son that he sacrificed everything for him to get into Welton Academy. Well, yeah, but just at this age, why can you just, like, seriously? And by that point, Neil is old enough to decide what he wants to do. And in this case, he wants to do acting. Get a grip, old man. No hard feelings to his father, so anyways. And you know what, because more on Kurtwood Smith, because, I mean, he's great at playing, you know, like, at this character who is just completely horrible to his son, you know what I mean? Because, yeah. Also, yeah, I just remember because, yeah, looking up a little bit of Kurtwood Smith, he was also, most notably, one of his other well-known works was RoboCop, because he was in the first RoboCop, and he was also in Broken Arrow, yeah. So, those are two other films that he's best known for. So, yeah. So what's Neil gonna do? Is he gonna give up? Well, no, he's still not gonna give up. He's not gonna let, you know, what his father said to him, just, like, let that make him stop. No. And like I said, going to John Keating's office, getting advice from him, and, well, John Keating coaching him that, you know, he should talk to his dad and such. And also, we see, because in John Keating's room/office, yeah, because there's a picture of whom I assume is supposed to be John's wife, and, you know, according to John, because she's, I think, yeah, she's in Paris or London, I want to say, yeah, either one, yeah, so, you know, and eventually, yeah, because Neil did talk to his dad. We don't see it on screen, but what Neil describes, well, because, you know, his father didn't like it, but still, you know, and unfortunately, his father will not be there at the theater to see him act on stage because, according to Neil, his dad will be in Chicago, so he's going to miss out on it. And you know what? I was really hoping that, well, maybe possibly his dad would realize that, you know what, he's good at this, like, and what was he thinking, like, and he would feel apologetic that, you know, being harsh and forcing him to do something that Neil doesn't want to do, and that whole thing. But until we get to that, because, yeah, as I said, and to speed things up, because, yeah, again, Chris coming to Knox because, you know, warning Knox some more, and even, you know, if the risk that Chet would have showed up at Welton Academy and once again beat the crap out of Knox, but thankfully no, because again, Chris, you know, convinced Chet not to do it. Well, and again, Knox, he's not giving up, and even, well, because by this point, and well, we come to winter time, and they're all about to head to the theater where Neil is going to act and perform on stage. Knox stays behind, like he'll walk to the theater, because, well, he wants to talk and convince Chris and to express how he truly feels over her. And if it doesn't go so well and such, then he says to Chris that, you know, he will stay away from her forever, and, you know, in the Dead Poets Society way and such, you know, a promise or that whole thing that he says, you know. And, you know, she then, you know, starts to laugh and such and just go with it. So, and I feel as though, yeah, probably that was just a peak that, you know what, Chris is really starting to see what Knox is like. I mean, because, you know, knowing what Chet is like, and even, like, how the movie establishes it, very well done, because girls always going for idiot boys, you know, boys who are jerks and such. True, yeah, in movies like those. But, yeah, because obviously Chris eventually seeing what Knox is like, and come on, because Knox is a perfect guy is one of those guys that's perfect for her, you know, unlike Chet. So eventually, yeah, because they're all at the theater, and Knox performing, no, not Knox, I'm sorry, getting names mixed up, Neil getting to act on stage, all of his fellow, like, classmates slash friends, and John being there, and of course, Knox and Chris making it there. And it's going pretty well, and there's some laughter, not that they're making fun of him, but just, just how Neil is acting, the delivery of dialogue that he gives, it shows you that he's good at it. He's really good at it. And sure enough, Neil's father did actually show up, because when he and us audience thought at first that he wasn't going to attend, he actually does. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, because he was very curious and just wanted to see, possibly. And eventually, because when, Neil finishes the play, and the dialogue that he was saying, I feel like because the last bit of dialogue that he was saying to end off the show, I feel like probably that it felt like that was directed at his dad, I'm pretty sure. Because, he was looking directly at his dad, so. And eventually, the play finishes. Everybody is just giving it a standing ovation, and especially towards Neil, because Neil being the highlight of this play. And, well, could possibly now Neil's father finally see that he's good at this, and will he feel apologetic and so on, that he was wrong? And because he wanted to meet his son backstage and such, and everybody, all the other fellow actors and actresses a part of this play just, praising Neil for his outstanding performance. And sure enough, when Neil's father shows up backstage, well, what happens next? And not what we were expecting, and that goes for me too. And I'm sure anybody, not just me, anybody else who would watch this movie for the first time, like, you would really think that possibly, his dad, but no, because what happens next, like, he is disappointed in him. Are you kidding me? And the clear sign of this, John, he congratulated and praised Neil's performance, and, Neil's father stepping in and telling John to stay away from his son. That's a clear sign right there that, because his father was not pleased at all. And when it seemed like he could have, because could he have really seen and opened his eyes, seen that his son was good at this? It's really devastating to see. And what would happen next for poor Neil? So then, at the Perry residence, the home of the Perry family, Neil and his parents. Well, because again, Mr. Perry being just disappointed in his son, and Miss Perry just not having that much to say, because Mr. Perry does all the talk, and just and what Mr. Perry says to his son next is, he's gonna have him no longer be a part of Welting Academy, and he's gonna send him to military school and such, and, eventually become a doctor. And just, you can imagine how distraught this impacts on Neil, and, what he wanted and such, and, his father asking him what, and so on. And, Neil's response, nothing. And later that evening, because, it gets intense, and the suspension and so on, the suspense, etc., and with what Neil's doing, because he just completely has a frown face, just like no facial expression or whatever, just completely just like that, just because, what he does next. And I was getting the feeling that, is this, what are you doing? No, don't do this. If you're going in the direction I think you're going, and it looks as though it is, and he pulled something out of a drawer, a dresser and such, and there was something in a napkin, and judging by the shape of it, I was thinking, could it be what I think it is? And sure enough, it's a gun. And is it not obvious what he could possibly do with that gun? And he goes to, he goes to his dad's office, desk and such, table, and just sitting in his dad's chair. Even at one point, because he opened the windows in his room, and he set down that piece of thorns that he was wearing because of the play that he was in. He set that by the window, and when he went into his dad's office, well, yeah, he sat at the chair and with that gun on the table, and because you think, and then we cut to, well, Mr. Perry, he wakes up from a sound, but we don't hear it. But you wonder, like, well, then, because Mr. Perry, he's suspecting, like, something's wrong, and, he checks Neil's room, and, well, obviously Neil's not there. So he looks further in the house, and, well, coming up to his office, and he can see there's smoke, and the gun is on the floor, and so is Neil. Neil freaking killed himself! And when I watched that, I was just like, oh man, and like I had a slight feeling that was most likely going to happen, and it did. Boy, did this movie take a dark turn. Like I said, when we were hoping that possibly, and it seemed obvious, that Mr. Perry would open up and he would realize that his son is good at this. But then, because he's disappointed in him, and he was going to have him go to military school and such, and this completely destroys his son. And for his son to kill himself, again, Dead Poet Society took a dark turn, for sure, and for what would happen to the character of Neil. And you can imagine, of course, just how distraught his parents are by this, and yeah, that's it for the Perry family, yeah, because that's the last we see of them. And, well, obviously, word gets spread at Welton Academy and to Neil's fellow students, and this especially has a huge impact on one of the students that was very close to him, Todd. Yeah, like, Todd is very distraught by this. Because, yeah, I mean, Todd was a pretty good character, and the chemistry between Todd and Neil, yeah, so, and, they're out in the snow, outside of the school, and out in the snow, and Todd, he's just refusing to accept the fact that Neil is gone, just how upset and how he breaks down and just shouting Neil's name, yeah, and there is a bit of a funeral for Neil, and also because coming to John Keating at one point in his classroom, and, well, of course, John being devastated by this unexpected passing of Neil, and there was something at Neil's class table and such, his desk, under the desk, and, because what Neil had wrote, and because of the books and such that John had given them, and, well, John, he then breaks down, because when John was very positive and cheerful and such, always had a smile, we finally see him break down. Ugh, that's just, yeah. And again, the little, like, memorial service at Welton Academy for Neil, and, oh, this was great, because when they're singing, and you could see the look in their faces and how they were doing their best to, singing, they just couldn't help but just this close to just break down and so on, like, ugh, that was so good. Well, because then at one point, because of Neil's suicide, well, under the request of Neil's parents, because, well, this is where Welton Academy investigates thoroughly in the whole thing of, the Dead Poets Society group, and, with John Keating and him being framed and such, and with what John Keating started, and John being, like, framed, thinking that, well, because he was responsible for the death of Neil. He had no part of it. This had nothing to do with the group that Neil was in, and with his fellow classmates, and with John especially. This was just with him and with his father, and yeah, we see it in the movie, we know what happens, and we know that what Welton Academy suspects is not the case. And, well, because all of the students coming in, and, well, because they have to, like, sign papers and such, and, well, because they're the victims, basically, and, well, and John, Keating just, yeah, it's devastating. And, and what Richard did, because Richard basically, made it official, like, for John Keating to be fired and so on, because, because of what Richard told the others, and especially Charlie is disappointed in Richard and such, even, like, was this close about to, like, strangling him, and eventually, yeah, he did punch him, so, yeah. I mean, well, this was happening all so fast, and the pressure put on them, and for the situation that they were in, and what was most likely gonna happen for their teacher that they admired and looked up to. You know, the best thing that came to them in Welton Academy. And, you know, because clearly John is what, you know, is, like, basically made Welton Academy be more, you know, cheerful and such because of his teachings, unlike any other teacher at that academy. So, yeah. So, you know, of course, later on, and eventually, yeah, John has been fired, and, well, his things being packed and such, and, you know, he'll probably go to another school and such. And, well, then at one point, Mr. Nolan stepping in. And actually, because, another thing, because, you know, we see Dr. Hager outside, and, well, he can see John at the window, and, you know, what used to be, yeah, John's, like, office and such, and waving to him, and, you know, John waves back. Because, yeah, it was, again, as I pointed out, and it's obvious, that they were the only two, like, Dr. Haggard was the only one at Welton Academy that got along really well with John, and because, you know, it seemed as though that they were pretty good friends. So, yeah. And, you know, Dr. Hager respected and liked John, unlike how everybody else, most notably Dr. Nolan, how they felt towards John and his teachings. And with them witnessing what John was doing with the students, like at one point having them march and ripping something from a page from the books and so on, yeah. So Mr. Nolan temporarily teaching whom used to be John's students, and yeah, of course, you know, not going well for them, and with the way that Welton Academy does their teaching, and John stepping in one last time because, you know, he was going to retrieve something, and then he would leave, he would disembark. But, you know, at a certain point, yeah, because the students, I think, yeah, because starting with, like, say, Todd and Richard, they basically put all of them, pretty much all of them, those who looked up and respected John, and almost forgot to mention, because they would sometimes refer to him as Captain, oh my Captain, like that, because John told them that, you know, you can refer to me as, you know, your captain and so on. So all of them put their feet down, and, you know, they stand up and, you know, on top of their desks, and, you know, Mr. Nolan just ordering them to, you know, get off their desks and so on. But, well, they're not going to listen to Mr. Nolan. Absolutely not. Why should they? Because John is the one that's, you know, that is the rightful teacher they deserved and such, unlike, say, like Mr. Nolan and everybody else, how they do their teachings. And again, just how Welton Academy never changed, you know, always stayed the same. That's crazy, you know. So, yeah, everybody's standing up, those who love and admire John, and, you know, oh, my captain, and so on. And, you know, John gets a bit teary-eyed, and, yeah, if you look closely, you can see, and John, in response, thank you, boys. And we get one last shot of, yeah, Todd, and then the movie ends. Wow, just that's how it ends. And it just leaves us wondering, like, well, what's going to happen next? Like, for me, I was thinking of this, that maybe they would, you know, follow along, you know, John, and maybe they would go to a different school or something, or, you know, maybe John would start his own school or something. And also, because the movie doesn't establish like what happens to, say, Knox and Chris. Well, that's another thing that leaves us audience wondering, well, maybe, most likely, they did get together. Because I think it seems more than likely they did, especially at the play and seeing, Neil perform. There's one moment where we see Knox going for, Chris's hand and, holding his hand too. Right there, that's a clear sign. And how slowly but surely, yeah. And I think most likely they probably did get together. And also, most likely, the students followed John, and they quit being a part of Welton Academy, and rightfully so. Yeah, because I think that seems a pretty good idea of what could possibly have happened, after the events of Dead Poets Society. But overall, because, how this movie ends, it was really good. 100%. It was a great and emotional way to end the film. Dead Poets Society. What a great film this turned out to be from Disney under Touchstone Pictures, and how, I think, rightfully so, being nominated for Best Picture. And still, even though it didn't win, being nominated, still something, and that was great to see. The story to Dead Poets Society was really good. The characters and getting to know each of the characters, and especially the students, knowing their personalities and what goes on with them. Sometimes some of them, happy and sad, devastating, and especially that goes for Neil. Everybody a part of Welton Academy, pretty much most of them being jerks, and just how they feel towards John, and and also Neil's father. Just overall the characters and with the actors, really good. The music and score was good too. The funny and emotional moments to this film, everything that's in Dead Poets Society. The film itself, fantastic. It did not disappoint for me. And I'm giving Dead Poets Society, well, what the heck, 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for Dead Poets Society. And what about you guys? What did you think of Dead Poets Society itself? Did you think it was really good? Did you have some good laughs and get teary-eyed? Oh yeah, and especially because the funny moments mostly coming from, good old Robin Williams. Were you just getting, was the suspense getting to you? Yeah. And what was going on, and did you think that most likely something was going to happen, and sure enough it did? Overall, what did you think of the film itself, and with what I've had to say with my review, and what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Dead Poets Society. More review videos are on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video / review. And stay tuned later this week because, we go from one Disney film under Touchstone Pictures to another, where this one, it's a Coen Brothers film, and it's their first remake film, and it stars good old Tom Hanks. I'm sure some of you probably know what it is that I'm talking about. Stay tuned for that. Take care, and peace out.